Hello Laziali all over the world. Can you see it? The Stadio Flaminio here behind us. So we're back 2 years later, Alasdair. We're here at Stadio Flaminio.
We've got a new Lazio stadium.
Yeah, we have a lot of updates. They're building it tomorrow. No, seriously, Alasdair, we thought of doing this video like 2 weeks ago, and we arranged to record it today, and suddenly this weekend anything happened about the Stadio Flaminio. It's like, hey, we have to give Vittorio some updates about the Stadio Flaminio. Do you want to recap it? What happened in these last 2 days? Are you aware of everything?
The powers of memory, let's test them. Well, yeah, you're right. I mean, it's been 2 years where, well, as anyone can see, probably, we'll go on a bit of a tour in a second, but
Lovely tour.
there's not much that's changed in terms of anything happening to this stadium, any work being done, any decision being made. But yeah, in the last 48 hours or so, we've had what Lotito saying that Lazio are interested still in the Stadio Flaminio, that he still sees a problem being that he wants 50,000 seats, and at the moment there's only 25,000. There's a lot of issues like parking, like restructuring, like, you know, respecting the cultural heritage of the stadium. Then the next issue is probably the Nervi family. There's the Nervi Foundation, who's the architect who designed, very famous Italian architect. Vittorio can give you a proper biography of Nervi's work. But because he's a famous architect, he designed the Stadio Flaminio, his family are to be respected here, and they've come out and basically said that they don't want Lazio to be taking it on as a private business and prefer that this whole area becomes, I guess, what would you say, like a public sports complex, because there's other buildings around here too. The Palazzetto dello Sport, just over there.
Yep.
And what was the latest thing? I'll give it back to you at this point.
So, as Alasdair mentioned, the Palazzetto dello Sport. The Palazzetto dello Sport have been refurbished, and now they're playing. It's very small. It's like 3,000 fans, I think, allowed inside. Basketball, perfect for basketball. Small basketball team and volleyball team. So they're playing there now since end of October. So finally they did something. But as Alasdair was mentioning, now there is this Foundation Nervi that has some rights of votes to approve or not if they want to refurbish the Stadio Flaminio, etc. One of the funniest thing about what Elisabetta Nervi, I don't know if it's the nephew or something like that, of the architect Nervi, said, we don't want Lazio to take it, and we don't want a roof. Alasdair forgot to mention, but obviously, if you want a stadium to play in the Champions League or European competition, you have to have a roof. If you can see behind me, there is a roof, but only for a part of the stand.
That's the only roof, isn't it? I think,
yeah.
This bit, yeah.
So obviously Lotito want a full roof to cover not only the Tribuna Monte Mario, let's call it like that, the most expensive one, but even the Curva, etc. And Elisabetta Nervi said, no, we cannot imprison this architecture wonderful thing inside a roof. So no, we don't want the roof. Which, you know, 2023 doesn't make sense. Luckily enough, before we recorded, the Assessore dello Sport of Rome said, I'm disgusted. What the Nervi family said is crazy. This is not an architecture wonder like this. It's collapsing and has been abandoned, you know, like 20 years ago. When did the rugby left it?
2011 was the last one, I think. Yeah.
So it has been abandoned, it's collapsing, as we're going to show you, it's falling in pieces. And so if the Nervi doesn't allow Lazio, who is at the moment the only club that show interest for the stadium, we don't care, the Nervi can say no, but if Lazio presented a real, true project that can be done, because this is another problem, then we'll accept it, and we don't care what the Nervi family said. So this is very encouraging. Still, Alasdair, the problem is Lotito has been talking about the Stadio Flaminio for ages, but no project. One thing, on Saturday, Lotito said, I gave to one person, very reliable, to study this project, study the furniture, study everything, and see if there is a chance to build the stadium as we want. He said 50 million places, obviously parking slot. 1,000, sorry.
50 million if you look.
50 million would be, I guess we will fill it up in some way eventually. But roof, parking slot, there are not that many here. But yeah, if the project is possible, then this guy will be in charge to take care of it and present it to the mayor. So I don't know. To be honest, Alasdair, every time there's an international break, the Stadio Flaminio pops up like, hey guys, we don't have nothing to talk about. What can we talk about? Ah, the Stadio Flaminio. So I'm a little bit concerned. I don't think there is really interest, because otherwise this thing would have been popping out during the international break, but during the season.
I think it should be said as well that there are constant comments about this place on a Lazio perspective, and there have been for years and years. And as you can see, nothing's ever happened. I mean, this is the main reason we did the video 2 years ago. Look, there's clearly huge interest in this place because, well, it was probably definitely by far the most popular video we've done was coming here, because I think people do have, and not just Lazio fans, I think people generally who used to maybe watch the Six Nations here or are aware of its history as a football stadium as well, will be wondering what the hell happened to that place. And the sad truth is, nothing. It's sitting here. As we'll go around, you'll see there's weeds growing out of it. There's rubbish all around it. People are using this basically as a car park for tour buses and stuff at the moment. So the idea, the notion that one of the main things holding this place back from being regenerated is its cultural value, is one of the greatest ironies in Rome at the moment, probably, because it's losing all its value by the fact that it's just sitting here rusting away. I did think, though, maybe, Vittorio, it's worth talking about why this place is important, because, you know, it's very easy for us to launch straight into, you know, what's happening with Lazio, what the possibility for the future is, but why would this place be good as a Lazio stadium? Why is it important in the kind of Lazio world? Do you want to explain a little bit of that?
I was thinking to do a video about that, about the history of this place, because you cannot understand, but this area, and I'm not talking only about the Stadio Flaminio, and I will tell you later why, and I will do a video with Alasdair if he wants to join me later about this. But this area is so attached to Lazio. So this stadium, as you see it now, was built in 1958. But before, there was another stadium here, exactly where the Stadio Flaminio was. And it was built in 1928. And the first game played here was of the national team. 1931, Lazio played the first home game here. And this was called the Stadio del Fascismo, after called Stadio della Nazionale, after called Stadio del Grande Torino, in memory of the Torino that died in the air accident, in the plane accident. So, give or take, Lazio played here more than 15 years in different stadium, because the Flaminio was built in the 58, but this area was Lazio area, because Lazio played here beginning from 1911. 1911, there, not where the Stadio Flaminio is, Lazio played the first official game in an official stadium. So this tells you why we are so attached to this area. Not only, this is Prati, and this has always been considered a Lazio area. If you were born and raised here, you should be a Lazio fan. Not only, it's very important because Piazza del Popolo is 10 minutes walk away from here, so it's a very center area, and this is Roma Nord, where usually Lazio fans are. So that's why this would be a very important area for fans like of my age and older. This is where, you know, we saw the first Lazio game, give and take. It's true that Lazio moved to the Stadio Olimpico in 1958, but before Lazio played here, and before the World Cup of 1990, Lazio played a couple of seasons here because they were refurbishing the Stadio Olimpico. So this is an area that Lazio fans feel like home. Obviously, as you can mention, it's in the center of the Rome, so building like a shopping center would be very complicated, but you can still build a stadium and maybe do restaurants, Lazio shops inside. You know, it would be very easy for tourists and fans to reach this area. So that's why it's really related to Lazio. Now, the problem is, as you can see, now it's 50,000 seats available. That's not enough for Lazio. That wasn't enough for rugby, right? That's the reason why the Italian rugby team moved from here to the Stadio Olimpico and abandoned the stadium. Now, the problem is, can we build other 35 seats? At least this is the minimum Lotito want here. Well, that's a question mark, Alasdair.
Yeah. At the moment, everything you read about this, everything everyone says about this, it seems to come down to those three things: the capacity, the roof, and the parking. And I guess that is the drawback of being as such. Like you've so beautifully explained this, a city centre area, walkable distance from metro lines and so on a tram line. But because it's pretty central, there isn't that much space around it. I mean, more space than you'd probably expect in a normal city centre, I guess. But it would be complicated to try and organise those things. I do wonder by this point how much of this is just becoming almost like an excuse, though. Like, I've heard so much about these problems and I've heard very little solutions being projected. And actually, from the other side, it's easy to present Lotito's side and not hear the other side. But what the council seem to keep saying is, well, Lazio have never given us a serious project. Like, give us a plan. Show us what you're planning to do, and then we can come back and tell you if it's a goer or not. I mean, isn't that the obvious thing to do?
I mean, that's the reason why I'm very skeptical, because it's 1 year and a half, nearly, that Lotito is talking about the Stadio Flaminio, building the Stadio Flaminio, etc. He didn't present a single project. And we have to be honest, with the new mayor, Rome has opened to this project. I mean, it started with the Raggi, who said, hey, Lazio, why don't you take the Stadio Flaminio? And Lotito said, well, let's talk about it. But did they really talk? I'm not sure about that. And there's a part that say he's not presenting the project because it's going to cost money to present the project. So Lotito doesn't want to spend money for nothing because maybe the project gets rejected and that's it. But from my point of view and the point of view of a lot of people, if you don't start with a project, then there's no chance someone is going to prove it, right? You have to present a project, then you sit down and you say, okay, this can work, this cannot, we have to do this thing different, etc. But at least present the project. This is the reason why I'm skeptical, because I think that Lotito is using this to get political relevance, because I think he used this for his political campaign when he got elected in Senato. And since then, nothing really happened. So my biggest concern is that Lotito is using this to have free publicity for his views, you know, for his political side. And I don't like this. And I don't think he's really going to present a real project. But, you know, maybe I'm wrong.
There's another side to this too, which is that even if Lotito did turn around tomorrow and they've got a full plan of how they're going to regenerate this area, renovate the stadium in line with everyone's kind of demands, the problem that still exists is how you then jump through all the bureaucratic, logistical hoops that you need to jump through to actually finish that project. And look, we're in Rome at the moment. It's a perfect example because, as we know, Roma had their Stadio della Roma project for how long? I mean, 10 years? Yeah. They were supposed to open it in 2017, if I remember correctly. And they got a lot further with that than Lazio have ever got with the Stadio Flaminio. They spent hundreds of millions of euros on each step that they were going through and ultimately had to give up on it. And it was one of the reasons that Friedkin ended up selling the club. He became so frustrated by how difficult he was finding it to do something that seemed so obviously in the interests of the club, of the city, of everyone. So that's the thing, Vittorio, is that I think in order for this to happen, Italy needs to change a bit with the way it looks at these things. I mean, I say a bit, it's kind of not really underlining it enough. There's so many bureaucratic problems surrounding stadium building in Italy that I guess there's a lot of doubt that even if everyone gets on the same page with this, that they want it to happen, that it will even be able to happen in the future.
Unfortunately, Alasdair will come to Italy. So, but I want to show you something different, because in the last month or so, they've talked not only about the Stadio Flaminio, but of a bigger project. So come with us. So this one behind me is the Palazzetto dello Sport, again did by the architecture Nervi, who did the Stadio Flaminio. This has been, as you see, they are finishing. I think Roma Volley played the first game end of October, And you see, they're completing the stadium. From here to the Stadio Flaminio, it's how much, Alasdair?
100 meters?
Yeah.
Yeah, 100 meters.
One of the last project Lotito was thinking is to take all this area and do a sort of Città dello Sport della Lazio. As you may be aware, Lazio is, how do you say it in English? Polisportiva.
Like, I've always just used that word. It's a sporting society, I guess, isn't it? It's got multiple clubs, sporting clubs.
So Lazio has volley team, rugby team, cycling team, skiing team, etc. And Lotito was thinking of taking all this area where now there's parking slot, there's Palazzetto Sport, there's Stadio Flaminio, and do a sport village, a city of sport with a lot of structure for the Lazio teams, volley, football, etc., etc. Obviously, this will cost more money. There is a organization in the Olympic Federation of Italy that is called Cassa Depositi. You can borrow money if you need to do sport infrastructure. Obviously, there will be a lot of money to borrow to do this thing. But again, you have the Stadio Flaminio here, Palazzetto Sport there, center of Rome. Lazio have been built here, have grown here. It could be a very interesting project, Alasdair. And Lotito could make a lot of money out of that. There are 2 tennis courts there where Mr. Alasdair played. So it would be a very interesting and intriguing project, right, Alasdair?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the main story here is one of like untapped potential, isn't it? Because, I mean, we're doing this right beside a busy road, as you can hear. But if you could somehow kind of like, I don't know, pedestrianize this whole area, make it into a complex for the public, open to everyone, I think that would be a great thing. You've got just over this side, I mean, we're not facing it, but just 100 meters away is a place called the Parco della Musica, which has, 3 concert halls, I think. Been there a couple of times this festival in the summer. It's like the biggest kind of music venue in Rome. So it'd be pretty cool having a huge kind of sports complex right beside a huge music complex and make this kind of like a kind of cultural sporting center, I suppose.
Just to give a little bit of context, the Palazzetto Sport, to refurbish, and it was in a very good state, to be honest with you, it cost like 8 million euros. So it's a lot of money, especially for Rome, who hasn't got that much money. So doing all this area would be a lot of money. And obviously, I don't know if Lotito want to spend or will be able to find all this money available. But the project will be very interesting because, again, Lazio has so many activities, and bring them all here would be great, even because, let's not forget, Formello is far away from Rome. And, for example, the youth academy that trains there, it's not very easy for parents to go every time, 4 times a week, 5 times a week outside Rome with all the traffic in Rome. So this would be a very interesting project. And to be honest with you, here we have a parking slot. There's the Stadio Flaminio, who is completely abandoned, and the Palazzetto Sport that has just been refurbished. So it would make a lot of sense even for Rome as a city to have all this. Again, it would be really interesting to see how much Lotito really thinks about the project, if it's something real he thinks about, or it's just, something to talk about and make a little bit of free publicity for himself.
Yeah, and it should be said that although Lotito has talked about the Stadio Flaminio and the idea of having a bigger complex here for Lazio, he has also talked quite recently about the fact that there are other options on the table, that there are other kind of councils that can be approached here. I mean, this is something I remember both of the Milan clubs have looked at because they're having so many problems with trying to get new stadium from San Siro. They looked at going outside of the city to other councils where they can get the jurisdiction to do it. And Lotito even mentioned Fiumicino, saying, it's another council from Rome. It's got the airport links. There's a train there already. It's perfect. Now, the problem there, I guess, is that it's the complete opposite of what you've just been saying about this being the historic heartland of Lazio in the north side of the city. In the sense that it's a walkable distance from the city centre. Anyone who's flown into Rome to Fiumicino Airport will know that is not the case. You're basically in the ocean at that point. So this is another reason I have to doubt whether this is actually realistically going to happen anytime soon, because Lotito has talked about the varying options on the table without ever particularly committing to any of them.
So while we walk back to the Stadio Flaminio, the first project, Alasdair, was Valmontone, that it's outside Rome, and it was an area where Lotito had properties there, and he wanted to build a stadium in his property, make a lot of money. It's my property, Lazio will have to pay me, I can build the stadium, I can build a shopping center, I can make a lot of money. And they said no, because it's a dangerous area, it's close to the Tevere, there could be floods, things like that. So that's the first project that didn't work out. Then Lotito, as you were mentioning, was saying Fiumicino. We are the first team of the Capitale. We are not the first team of Fiumicino. I can understand that it would be easier, and I can understand that the mayor of Fiumicino would be interested, because just to let you know, there's an airport in Fiumicino, but that's it. So,
Shopping centre. That's about it.
I mean, that should be the only thing available. Fiumicino, the airport, shopping centre, and the Lazio Stadium.
Yeah, and I guess this is the thing: is there's a reason why you're going to other councils. The kind of upshot of that is that you're not in Rome anymore. If you want to market yourselves continuously as the prima squadra della Capitale, then you need to be in the Capitale, don't you? I mean, it seems pretty obvious to me. The thing is, it's kind of like this: if it did come down to it, what would you prefer? A brand new Lazio stadium where they can start generating revenue from an inconvenient location that's outside of the city, or continuing with the way things are forever, paying rent for the Olimpico and, not really getting anywhere.
But the problem, Alasdair, is I understand it will cost you less. Probably you can have some advantage doing it in Fiumicino, but how many Lazio fans will really go to the stadium? And the reason why you built your own stadium is that you can keep it open from Monday to Sunday and make money, make revenue even during the week where you don't play games. But if I'm a Lazio fan from Rome, I'm not going to Fiumicino, to the shopping center of Lazio in Fiumicino. If you're not well aware of Rome, to get to Fiumicino in a busy day, it can take you 1 hour. So why should I go to the Stadio delle Aquile, how it could be called, in Fiumicino? If I'm from Rome, I will never go. So yes, it's your property, it's your stadium. You're not paying the rent to the CONI, but you could lose a lot of money, because obviously you have to take care of the stadium, you have to keep it open, you have to pay for the maintenance and things like that. So I don't think that's the perfect reason, or that's the perfect decision to do the Stadio at Fiumicino.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is well connected because it's the main airport, but that doesn't, like you say, make up for how long it takes to get there. And I think especially if you think about the Lazio fan base, how difficult it can sometimes be to get people to go to games even at the Olimpico, where it's in the north of Rome and it's fairly convenient for a lot of people. I mean, not loads, it's not brilliant, but more so than Fiumicino by a mile. And I think that would be a problem. I can't believe he's being serious about that. And by the way, before I was playing devil's advocate, it's not something I support, the idea of going to Fiumicino, but I guess it just goes to show the kind of frustration around this, doesn't it? I mean, I think that's all it is that Lotito is going to have to go and say things like that to try and kind of get a response maybe from the council in Rome. And then, of course, the other problem is, you mentioned before, this whole thing with the Flaminio started when Raggi was the mayor of Rome, and now we've got Gualtieri. So and then he I don't know when the next election is, but he presumably will be gone in a number of years, and then the whole thing starts again in terms of trying to build good relationships, convince people that it's the right thing for the city, and get on with it.
But the thing, Alasdair, is that for once, the mayor have opened to give the Stadio Flaminio to Lazio. I don't think we are struggling to get the permission. I think the problem is we simply didn't present a project. I think that at the moment it's only talking, but nothing concrete has been presented by Lazio. The Assessore dello Sport, even this morning, said, we're waiting for a project, we are really open, even because, and we will show you, the Stadio Flaminio is collapsing. There's no other option for them. And this is property of the mayor of Rome. It's not property of the Nervi family or Lazio or someone else. So if it collapses, it's Rome that's going to pay all the money to rebuild it or do something. So they have all interests. And I know it sounds weird, but I think that Lotito is talking but not doing nothing concrete. And Rome is open because it's different from the plan of the Roma Stadium that wants to take an area where there's houses and things like that and build a stadium from scratch. Here there is the stadium. You just have to refurbish it, to do it completely new, obviously. So I know it sounds strange, but I blame Lotito, not the mayor of Rome.
Yeah, well, there needs to be real energy behind this, and I think even though it didn't work out for him, that's the thing that Friedkin brought when he came to Roma, and that's probably also because he's an American owner who came in not really necessarily understanding quite what he was up against, and like I said before, how many hoops you have to jump through, but he put huge amount of energy and invested a lot of money into trying to get that to happen, and look, still didn't work, which is kind of alarming. But I do think that there is probably now, I mean, say if you disagree, but there's probably now a bit more kind of like a public push to make these things happen, to say enough's enough. We haven't had a countrywide stadium building or renovating project since Italia 90. I mean, it's crazy. And obviously, the Euros are coming up in 2032, but Italy are sharing them with Turkey. So it's only 5 stadiums that are going to get attention in that. Is the Flaminio going to be one? Nope. And one that probably will be is the Olimpico, and all that's going to do is kind of convince this whole thing to drag on and Lazio and Roma to stay in the Olimpico longer.
Yeah, the only stadio who didn't need it is the one that's going to get it, right? Stadio Olimpico. Because there were rumors, Alasdair, that they could use some money for the Stadio Flaminio, but I don't see it happen. Why they would? I mean, this stadium is abandoned. I think you need a lot of money to at least allow a game to be played here. And then with a stadium so small, are you really going to play a game here? Come on, it's not, especially with the Stadio Olimpico available. So I don't think it's going to happen, but we have to find a solution to this stadium. We have to find a solution even to Lazio, because in 2023, in 2024, if you want to become a big club, make a lot of money, you have to have your stadium, and I repeat, it has to be in your city. It cannot be in Fiumicino, cannot be in Valmontone. It has to be to Rome. And to wrap it up, Alasdair, we are all focusing on our history. Lazio, la prima squadra capitale, the oldest club in Europe, in the south of Italy, blah, blah, blah. And then you have the Stadio Flaminio, that it has been your home for ages, and you go Fiumicino and do a stadium. Come on, that's completely the opposite of what Lazio has been doing in the last 20 years or so.
Yeah, and, Lazio or no Lazio, I think it is such a shame for this place to be left like this. And to be honest, like you say, just to get anything on in there, forget about the 50,000 and the full roof, to get that place up to scratch to have any competitive sport is going to require a hell of a lot of investment. But it has to happen. It's so depressing coming past here, because it's a really nice area, Parioli, famously, and it's just got this huge kind of big elephant in the middle of it that's falling to pieces. So yeah, I think that something needs to be done one way or another with the Flaminio, whether that's Lazio, whether that's a kind of public sports complex, whether that's finding a way of using it for rugby again or for women's football or anything. Just, I don't know. I feel like something needs to happen before it's too late, because the longer they leave this, I'm not a restructuring expert, but I imagine the longer they leave a building like that without looking after it, the harder it'll get and the more expensive it'll get.
Yep, I agree with Alasdair. And guys, if you like this video, rate and review, put like, share it with your friends, and we'll be back with something more. Take care.